In this video, we are going to show you some of the rare photos of Marie Fredriksson while also sharing little-known facts about her life story. Growing up, all Marie Fredriksson wanted from her life was just to be a star. She eventually did, but the price she had to pay to get there was nothing short of misery and tragedy. From the horrific death of her sister, neglect by her parents, depression, and a fatal illness, this is the untold story of Marie Fredriksson, while you also get to enjoy some of her rare photos. To many, Marie Fredriksson really was the Queen of Hearts, but behind the fame and fortune, her life was no joyride. Marie was born on May 30th, 1958, in the small village of Ösjö, Sweden. Her parents, originally farmers, sold their land when she was 4 years old, and the family moved to the nearby town of Östra Ljungby. Marie was the youngest of 5 children, and the family faced dire times. Their father, Charles, found work as a postman. Their mother, Inez, was a factory worker. Having to turn every penny, there was no money for childcare, and the children were often left home alone. Young Marie made the most of this time alone, practicing in front of the mirror and dreaming of one day becoming a star. She learned to play music and loved to sing. Her mother would often ask her to perform in front of friends who compared her voice to the likes of Olivia Newton-John. But at the age of 7, her world and her family were torn apart. In a split second, the saddest of ironies changed her life forever. Marie's big sister, Annalisa, was on her way to buy a new dress to celebrate her engagement party. Imagine how excited she and the family must have been. A beautiful new start. Instead, it was to be the start of the family's demise. Annalisa crashed into a milk tanker and died. The sudden loss of their daughter left Marie's parents distraught, and Marie suffered the consequences more than anyone. For decades, she could not talk about it, not even to her closest friends. When she finally summoned the strength, she revealed, "I remember the grief, how the family was torn apart, completely. After that, I had to fend for myself. Just imagine I was only 7 years old." A shy little girl, it was not only at home that she was left to fend for herself. Her schoolmates would often make her cry, and she was too small to stand up to them. But Marie found solace in music and in Sunday school. Their pastor played a big role in encouraging her, and she enjoyed singing in church. Even toward the end of her life, she cherished those memories dearly. Still, the heartbreaking lack of attention from her parents and her having to deal with her own grief led to a rebellious streak. At age 11, a teacher caught her trying a cigarette for the first time. As a frightened Marie was running away from the teacher, she hit a balcony. More than just a bruised ego, Marie came away with a broken nose. The teacher decided not to tell her parents, maybe feeling that a bruised ego and a broken nose were enough punishment for one day. As a teenager, her passion for music grew stronger and stronger, especially after discovering artists like Joni Mitchell, Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, and the Beatles, all music that she was not allowed to listen to. At only 17, Marie took a brave step. She left home and enrolled in music school. Not only did she do music, but she had a natural talent for theater too. There was simply no denying her raw talent. Since no one could match her incredible vocal range, she ended up performing in a play that she helped to write. It was such a massive success that it went on tour throughout Sweden. Even more impressive, the final performance was held in Stockholm in front of the Swedish Prime Minister. As a small-town girl, the visit to Stockholm opened up a whole new world for Marie. Being in front of such a large audience reignited her childhood passion for being a star. As she later said, "I wanted to perform. I'm a performer." After graduating, Marie knew she could not return to her small hometown. She needed to be where the action was. She packed her bags and moved to the city of Halmstad. She had a friend there, Stefan Dernbrandt, whom she had met years earlier at a Supertramp concert. She moved in with him, and with the fresh new start came fresh new love. Soon, Marie and Stefan started dating. The pair had a lot in common, but most importantly, a mutual love for music. Stefan was a drummer in the band Strulpoj Karna. Little did Marie know it at the time, but the band's guitarist and vocalist Martin Sternhuvud would have a big impact on her life. Upon visiting Stefan at his apartment, Martin had heard what a fantastic singer and pianist Marie was. He was immediately impressed and begged her continuously to audition for the band, but Marie's nerves got the better of her. Eventually, she mustered the courage. When the other members heard her perform, it spelled the death of the band. With Marie now on the keyboard and backing vocals, a new band was born. They called it Strul. It was during her time with Struhl that Marie would meet another man, a man whose name you might know, the man who ultimately helped her achieve the height of her success, Per Gessle, her music partner in Roxette. At the time, however, she did not really like him. She thought he wasn't cool enough nor manly enough, and he still lived with his parents. Although he didn't hate Marie, Gessle also didn't think highly of her. She wasn't the most attractive woman he'd ever seen, and he thought she played the piano too loud. Little did they know what the future had in store for them. Struhl gained more success, and Martin kept encouraging Marie to write her own songs for the band. He also helped her to grow her confidence, so much so that she eventually started singing lead vocals on her own songs. As Marie and Martin spent more and more time together, they grew closer and closer. Martin knew that a romance with Marie would mean the end of the band, and in 1980, that was exactly what happened. The two could no longer control their feelings for each other, and as a result, Marie and Stefan broke up, and so did the band. Marie and Martin not only formed a relationship, but also a new band of their own, and they called it Mama's Barn. A peculiar name for sure, but how did they come up with it? It's the first two letters of each of their names, Ma and Ma. In their previous band, Martin wanted to have full control, but in this new one, Marie now played an equal part. Now barely 23 years old, she was on a fast track to fame, to becoming that star she always dreamed of. But if there was one lesson the young Marie had learned many times in her life, it is that happiness is often overshadowed by heartache. In 1981, Marie suffered another terrible loss. This time, it was her father, who died without warning of a heart attack. The loss hit her hard. Her father would never see her become the star she dreamed of. It took her a while to recover from his loss, but one thing kept her going. She knew he would not want her to give up. Overwhelmed by her sudden success, her party lifestyle, and the pain of her father's loss, Marie felt that it was time for a change. It was time to grow up. Even though their band had been signed with a record label, Marie broke things off with Martin, and subsequently, their band was no more. She focused instead on a solo career, and in 1983 was offered a record deal. But ever the shy and insecure girl, she almost said no to the deal. Marie was scared. What if she wasn't good enough? If not for her sister, who finally convinced her to take the plunge, we may have never known the name Roxette. Thankfully, Marie listened to her sister, and in 1984, her first single became a massive hit and was played on radio stations all over Sweden. But for Marie, with every high comes a devastating low. While on tour with her first solo album, someone from the audience yelled for her to get off the stage. One can only imagine how this must have fueled her insecurity. Nevertheless, she stayed strong and kept performing until someone threw a beer glass on stage that hit her in the head. So severe was the wound that she was rushed off to hospital in an ambulance. To make it worse, the whole disaster happened in her hometown, which already held such dark memories for her. Marie would not let the incident break her down. She continued touring, gaining more and more fame and success as a solo artist. Despite their initial first impressions, Marie and Gessle had kept in touch throughout the years, even working together on several projects. Marie's career was skyrocketing, but Gessle's, on the other hand, was spiraling down. He proposed to Marie that they team up to form a duo. While they were both big names in Sweden and singing in Swedish, he wanted them to perform in English. His hopes were that they would reach some success across Europe. This was a risk and a bad idea, or that was what others in the industry had warned Marie. In 1986, Roxette was formed. They released their first album that same year. By the release of their second album in 1988, Marie had already recorded 3 solo albums and would release 5 more in the years to come. Roxette, however, was destined to become one of the greatest pop bands of all time. But remember the one lesson that Marie had learned over and over throughout her life. Yes, every high is marred by a low. Despite being loved and worshipped by millions of fans, Marie grew increasingly sad and lonely. Recalling in an interview, Marie Fredriksson, the performer, had grown in stature at the expense of Marie, the private person. I had less and less space to be myself. And when I was myself, I felt uncertain, small, and lost. Marie fell into a dark abyss of depression. By her own admittance, she hung out in bars and drank too much. Her career was exploding, but her personal life was imploding, falling apart. It was not until 1991 that she would find happiness again. While on tour in Australia, she met fellow musician Mikhail "Mika" Bolyos. Marie revealed in a later interview, "If Mika and I hadn't met, I don't know if I would have been able to continue in Roxette much longer." With new love and new strength, Marie felt revived in her passion for music and for the band. Roxette released 3 more albums between 1991 and 1994. Also in 1994, Marie and Mikhail got married and had 2 children. Between 1999 and 2001, the band released 2 more albums, Have a Nice Day and Room Service. No one could guess how tragically ironic the name of that last album could be. Just over a year later, Marie would have to rely on room service just to survive. Once again, after finding great happiness and reaching even more success, Marie was struck down. On September 11, 2002, exactly 1 year after the World Trade Center came crashing down, so too did Marie's world come crashing down. After coming home from a jog with her husband, she collapsed on the floor and cracked her skull. It was a brain tumor. Marie had cancer, brought on by too much drinking and smoking. At least that was what her doctor said. And that was what all the tabloids played into. But it was all lies. It took a grueling 4-hour surgery to save her life, but even then, she was given only a 25% chance of survival. She lost sight in her right eye and lost the ability to speak, to read, and to write. No one thought she was going to make it, but in her heart, she knew she would. Marie's first major tragedy, her sister's horrible accident, had prepared her for this fight. As she once said of her sister's death, "I think that's where I got the fighting spirit which has benefited me so enormously, not least of all when I developed cancer. I never give up." For months on end, she underwent intense chemotherapy and radiotherapy. She lost her hair, but she didn't mind. "I thought it was pretty neat. I looked pretty raw," she explained. However, more crushing than her harrowing fight against cancer was the utter isolation she felt with her family, especially during the years that she was unable to speak. While her husband and children chatted away at the dinner table, all she could do was sit in total silence, not able to utter a single word. "It was horrible," she said. But by 2003, after 3 years of treatment, the cancer was gone. Or so they thought. Marie felt healthy again and was given the all clear. In 2006, Roxette reunited to record new material, and in 2009, Marie was back on stage. But this time, she was more scared and insecure than ever. Later, Gessel would say in an interview that Marie had no self-confidence and said she couldn't sing anymore. But if by now we've learned one thing about Marie Fredriksson, it's this: she has strength beyond strength. As Gessler revealed, but she staggered up on stage anyway, and the audience just died. People were crying to the left and right. Afterward, she was like a changed person, and 2 weeks later, she called me asking if I'd want to write another Roxette album. 3 more studio albums followed between 2011 and 2016, and in 2012, they kicked off a tour that would last for 4 years, playing over 256 concerts across the globe. But Marie's cancer returned. She struggled with mobility and hearing, and the touring took its toll on her health. By 2016, doctors advised her to start taking it easy, and the band was forced to cancel the last leg of their tour. In a statement, Marie wrote, "Sadly, now my touring days are over, and I want to take this opportunity to thank our wonderful fans that have followed us on our long and winding journey." Fighting until her last day, Marie passed away in 2019, 17 years after her initial diagnosis. 17 years after she was told she would not live. Throughout her life, Marie Fredriksson was broken down and crushed over and over and over again. Her story reminds us that we have a choice. We can either lie down and take life's beatings, or we can rise back up stronger each time. If you enjoyed this video, there's a good chance you'll also enjoy the one showing on your screen right now. Click, enjoy, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you on the next one.